Welcome back. I am still awaiting your feedback. Again, our social media platforms are at KUTV Kenya on Facebook, at KUTV Kenya on Instagram, and at KUTV Kenya, KUTV_Kenya on Twitter. I have Joshua Changwoni with us, and he's here to talk to us about the wave of misinformation and disinformation in regards to the elections. And I asked you earlier, how do you filter the kind of information you receive? How do you filter the information you're allowed to get into your head? Do you check on social media? Do you ask people questions? Do you look at the gazeti, mnasomanga news, watching the news? Where exactly do you get the real information? Karibu sana, Mr. Joshua.
Thank you very much, Nina.
How are you feeling this morning?
Very encouraged to be in KUTV. My first time being here. It's a wonderful place.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
I hope you feel comfortable.
Very, very comfortable. Yeah.
As we start, who is Mr. Joshua Changwoni?
Yes, Mr. Changwoni is the Executive Director of the Constitutional Reform Education Consortium, CRECO, a 23-year non-governmental organization, and is a consortium of civil society organizations across the country. And I head the secretariat doing work around research, civic education, educating Kenyans around the provisions of the Constitution, and also strengthening the capacity of civil societies in Kenya. And what for the purposes of this discussion is that I've been an observer for the past 4 general elections and many by-elections, including one referenda. Wow.
Mr. Changwoni.
Yes, Nina.
We have a lot of misinformation and disinformation in regards to the oncoming elections, which are they're here in less than 5 days, yeah?
Yes, yeah, we have only 5 days remaining for Kenyans to cast their polls next week on Tuesday.
Do you think we're ready as Kenyans?
As Kenyans, you can see the mood is, I mean, people are already prepared.
Yeah.
Prepared in the sense that people know where they registered in the polling stations. And when you see the kind of the activities that are ongoing, right from those ones that are administering and managing the elections, which is the IEBC, and the other institutions, including the National Police Service, the judiciary, and even observers, including also the media. You can see they are very involved in terms of this discussion. Even this morning here in KUTV, we are discussing about elections. And you've rightly said that there's a lot of disinformation and misinformation. But what is more important is that disinformation and misinformation did not just start with this election. It's been there, but it's now more prominent. It's become an industry that people invest in.
And thriving from.
Yes, and thriving from.
Yeah.
They make a living out of this. And then because of technology and advancement in terms of penetration of the mobile telephone network, where now many Kenyans are having smartphones.
Yeah, the internet
so the social media
is just right there.
Platforms are very accessible now to many of our citizens. And the laws that govern the use of these platforms are not very clear. Very clear and entrenched, including even the online code of conduct.
Yes.
When before, let's say, for instance, I get information, I don't think twice before sharing with Nina. I just forward you.
And then Nina shares with 10 other people.
Yes,
and
you
then
spend your time. Like that. And now that we all belong in WhatsApp groups.
Yes.
We are in Facebook groups. We are also in Twitter, TikTok, the most popular now in terms of video sharing and all that. So it's information moves very quickly. And you can see even from today's Daily Nation on page 13, you can see some 9 university students who were arrested, over spread of hate leaflets,
yes.
Which borders disinformation and misinformation. If you spread these messages that non-locals should move away from this place because there will be violence, whereas actually there is no violence.
Yeah.
So you see, this is a monster that we are facing now, and more specifically in our thriving democracy as a country, because there is a thin line between freedom of expression and misuse of the same.
Yes.
And disinformation and misinformation is also the misuse of that freedom, because you use it to affect your neighbor or the people that are surrounding you. And remember, we have 22.1 million registered voters. In 2017, we had 19 million, and in 2013, we had 14 million Kenyans registered.
So it's increasing.
It's
increasing, yes.
Including also the polling stations, which is now more than 46,000, according to the IEBC statistics.
Yes.
But what is more important is that there's a lot of information that surrounds the preparation of the elections, and the conduct of the same election, the counting of the votes in the polling stations, and transmission of those results, as well as also announcement of these results.
Yes.
And people can even announce their own results.
Yeah, because I've just seen something like that here, actually.
Yes.
On page 8.
Yes, by the IEBC.
Yes, so the IEBC is answering some of the questions that have been asked by both parties. And there's a place where I saw there was a question on how they intend to give results without violence, and there's something I've seen.
Yes, it is there. We saw what the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party wrote and raised it with IEBC. We met actually the commissioners of IEBC last week, and we had a discussion on some of these things, including technology, the voters register, and the results transmission. But you see, it's very unfortunate that the campaign processes that we engage in our country is deficient of integrity. Use all means to just acquire the vote, even if it means you use dirty language.
Yes.
You spread information against the information that is very harmful against your opponents, and it's away from the sober debate.
Yes.
So we do not have those very clear rules, including because in the previous two elections, 2017, 2013, hiring of hooligans and goons was very prominent then. Now, in these 2022 general elections, disinforming the public, disinforming the voters, disinforming the candidates is featuring prominently as a strategy, and even including disinforming the public about the IEBC. And that's why you see IEBC is making a lot of investments in terms of making clarifications on the information that is going around.
Yes.
And everybody is a victim of disinformation and misinformation, including the media.
Yes.
We've seen journalists filing reports, probably even they are fake sources, that they did not even find them to be fake. They thought it was very genuine. And the stories find themselves in spaces of newspapers, on TV or radio, or even on online or social media platforms. And later on, they just discover that these were fake news.
Yes, rumors.
And we have so many examples that have happened in our country. I mean, especially focusing on this election. One prominent example is when the presidential candidate for the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party went to Uasin Gishu during a burial of a prominent farmer. And his helicopter was stoned.
Yes.
If you remember that incident. And immediately the incident happened while the police was trying to look at the situation. A list of 14 Kenyans was circulated to deceive Kenyans that these are people who were hired from a particular place just to link the incident of a previous attack in Kondele. But the list of the 14 was fabricated because the police had said that they arrested 14 youth.
Yes.
But it forced the police to release the accurate list of the 14.
Yes.
But the names were just people from the local. But you see, the disinformer was trying to fabricate lies to show that this was a retaliation and this was a planned, attack on this helicopter of the president. So, and you can imagine such incidents or such kind of fabrication of lies can cause tension. Because it means people can easily not become very comfortable with that kind of an environment.
Even the candidates.
Yes, even the candidates.
Yeah.
And even the kind of, the conversations that is going to make Kenyans get engaged in. It will not be issue-based anymore, but it will be, why was so-and-so attacked? Who attacked this person? If this person really stage managed his own attack, that kind of, so we reduce our democratic
we need to be
conversation.
able to narrow down.
Yes. But what is very important is that as citizens, we need to confirm the sources of the information before we share.
How do we do that? How do I do that? I have received some piece of information on my social media. How do I confirm that this is fake news or this is real news?
Like now, for instance, let's say there is breaking news, and in social media they have a logo of KUTV. Probably you take a minute or so to verify whether that is actually the true logo of KUTV. Because that, the disinformers are also very clever. They are also advancing technology. Or if you have a contact of an editor in KUTV, or a reporter, you make a call to say, I'm seeing this type of information and it's being, shared on your platform, or it's being purported to originate from, the breaking news is originating from your TV station. And you will get accurate information, whether it is true or false. But if you share without verifying the sources, you are also injuring the next recipient of this information. Because that person also will just consume that information and also pass on to the next person. And worst of it all is even put it in WhatsApp groups, or even share with close relatives or even friends. And you can imagine the psychological safety and emotional imbalance that can cause when such people are consuming false information. And then the other thing is that the authenticity of some of these information that is being given. Such information even could be just a paragraph or even 2 sentences. Like so-and-so has been killed. Or so-and-so has been involved in an accident. There are authoritative sources that can give you accurate information based on certain incidents, such as, let's say, for instance, the NTSA, the police. I saw you giving updates on the traffic. So what if there's someone who can even disinform you that there's an accident on the, let's say, Nairobi Expressway? So probably the traffic police headquarters would be the best verifier of whether that has really happened or not. Because, people can just fabricate some of these things. Just to test or even for fun. So, unfortunately, it has even gone just to make fun out of the situation or something like that.
Mr. Changwoni, that's for the people who have internet. But then we have people in the village. Who are not getting their information from the internet like me and you, but they are still getting access to information from word of mouth and rumors. How are they going to verify that this is fake news and this is real news?
Oh yeah. Nina, you will be surprised that the rural setting are major consumers of information that are shared on the internet. Because, they communicate with their relatives and their people who are accessible to the internet. And they get briefs every morning or every evening. And surprisingly, the rate at which information penetrates to people who are residing in villages is even much higher than the people who are in urban areas, surprisingly. And I say that because one smartphone, let's say for instance, in a rural shopping center, can be shared among 10 youth. And you will find them. They are just following a WhatsApp group, or they are on Facebook, and they are surrounding the person who is holding that phone. They are so generous. In urban areas, you can't do that because the phone is more private. Like if I take your phone, you'll be more concerned. But in the village, people are saying, they will even call themselves, come and look, come and see this. So you see, and that will make a discussion happen among the group, say the women or their youth or whatever, something like that. But you've asked a good question to say, these are people, probably they might not be accessible to the police just the way I've just said, or let's say to the IBC official, or even the political party official. When you are in a rural setting, you don't lack connection on that person who is probably accessible to more information than yourself. It doesn't harm you making a call to say, I've seen this circulating in social media, or so and so told me that there's this information that has happened, or there's this incident that has happened. You take a moment to just not getting excited, because sometimes some of these things also you have to restrain yourself. You know, the human behavior is that you want actually to be the first one to release the news.
Yes.
Or you want to be the first one that you can also share with Nina. Or you want to be the first one.
News bearer.
Yes, the news bearer. You know, so and so was shared with us this information.
Yeah.
But before getting excited to share that information,
Verify.
you look back and say, who can I call about this? If it's, let's say, a criminal issue, it doesn't probably calling somebody who is working with the police. And that person, or let's say even a teacher, because teachers are everywhere.
Yes.
And these are people who are able to read and say, look at that twice. And there are good examples, like few days ago, and this was when the CS Education made an announcement that there should be immediate closure of schools.
Yes.
And there was a circular in terms of a signed notice by the CS.
There was also another one by the TSC that was saying that it's the teachers, no, IEBC wants the teachers to participate as clerks, but then the TSC does not want
such kind
teachers,
of such kind of things.
Yes.
So, but back to the example of the notice by the CS Education. You know, parents, because they have children in schools. I mean, some would say that is fake, because the plan was to close schools on Friday, the 5th.
Yes.
And the CS said it should be closed immediately,
immediate effect.
1st of August.
Yes.
And return on 10th of August. But you realize that some parents even had to doubt that, because there was a plan which had been issued by the ministry, and this one just came abruptly. So in such a case, parents would call the teachers, or let's say the school principal, or the head teachers for that matter, that is this true? When are we picking our children? We've seen this news. You know, that's part of the verification of the information. If it's about elections, it's also good to be in contact with that voter educator in the community. The IBC voter educator, or this person who has worked, let's say, in a polling station as a presiding officer, or as a clerk, or somebody who has worked, let's say, with a particular political party, because we have political party agents at the lower level.
Yes.
So those could be information verifiers at that lower unit of the, at that local unit of the society, and more specifically the villages.
Yes.
And I think this disinformation and misinformation that has not spared any sector. It is in the health sector, you saw in the corona period.
Yes.
Or surrounding the vaccines, or let's say even when the pandemic
COVID,
came.
different people.
Yes, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So and we've become a society where control of this disinformation is becoming difficult. And I think at the national level, we are engaging technology companies such as Meta, TikTok, Twitter, on how we can restore responsible use of these online spaces.
Actually, I have noticed, I'm sure if there are other TikTok users who are watching, nowadays when you open TikTok, the first thing that pops up is voter information. There's a lot of voter education.
Yes,
There's a little notification that pops up, and so does Instagram as well.
Yes.
I'm not sure about Facebook, but I'm sure if it's on Instagram.
Now with Facebook, if you open a video, let's say for instance you're dealing with this first video, there will be other several videos that will come. Mostly they are adverts and you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they trick you, and of course that has even led to a conversation that is that necessary? Why should you not be exposed so that you have what's called selective exposure to certain information? Why should other things pop up which you do not even need? Because you're watching this video, let's say, for instance, for a political party rally somewhere, but you will see there are many other things that will come just down there that interest you to just scroll up and whatever, something, so that in a way that it also exposes you in terms of utility of your time, and even exposed to unnecessary things that probably, or even things that you look at, you search in YouTube, you know, something like that. So, but is emerging. And the civil society organizations are now engaging these technology companies, the social media companies, to find a way on how we are promoting also freedom of expression, but again, to not also injure the fabric, the social fabric of society by also misuse of the same platforms where people can hate each other, where people can harass each other, and of course now we have now the cyberbullying. We have, and I think that also resulted to what's called the cyber crimes unit, let's say in the police service, even with the Communication Authority of Kenya, and people now are curious to see the human rights violations that happen in online platform or in digital spaces. But again, we now have what's called digital rights. I mean, because even before reading this hard copy newspaper, I'm going to show Nina, you went through, a digital, form of news and whatever in the morning and all that before even coming to this. So there's an evolution, a whole evolution of, media message consumption, and the sources now are varied. It could be through digital, it could be electronic, or it could be print, even pictorials. And pictorials, print and all that, they have also found themselves in digital spaces.
Yes, that's true.
Because now you can read also a digital newspaper.
Yeah.
Even the voters register now is found
it's online.
It's online now.
Yes,
I mean, it's digital, information.
Yeah.
And they're saying now let's do away with the manual register and all that. So there's a whole evolution in terms of communication sector.
Mr. Changwoni, I'm sure you are in a good position whereby you have seen so many myths and misconceptions in regards to elections.
Yes.
I would like you to share with us some and demystify them for us.
Yes,
because you're in a better position to tell us the things you've heard and the things you've noticed that the kawaida mwananchi anasikiza sana and it's a myth.
Yes.
And a misconception.
Yeah, and Nina, let's go to the basics. On Tuesday, the 9th of August, when Kenyans go to the polling stations, the 46,000 plus polling stations. So you go to the polling stations where you registered, the polling station where you registered as a voter.
Yes. With
your national identity card or a valid passport, depending on which document you use to register as a voter.
Yes.
A disinformer will say, just go to any polling station, just the way you go to any ATM, if you are a customer or a client to a particular bank. If you're in Mombasa, you can access your money through the ATM. Yeah. If you're in Eldoret, you can anywhere. So a disinformer will say, will find an educated in the sense of voter education of a voter, where instead of, let's say, for instance, voting in Kahawa Primary School where you registered, probably let's say you live in Rongai. But you are told, no, just go to Rongai, the machine. But that's not the case. That is disinformation. I mean, Kenyans the registered voters should turn in polling stations where they registered as a voter.
So for myth number one, you can only vote where you registered as a voter.
And then the other thing, Nina, is that when you check into the polling station, you will be identified through your biometrics, the fingerprints.
Yes.
Through the equipment which is called the KIMS kits, the Kenya Elections Integrated Management System.
Yes.
Which IBC uses to have the digital voters register and also to identify the voter. And the IBC has said that if you are not able to be identified through the poll book, through this KIMS kit, there's something which is called alphanumerical, where they key in your identity card number. Because Nina, we have only one identity card number for Nina in the whole of this country. We don't have another ID card as yours.
Yes.
Similar to mine.
Yes.
So, and that equipment should be able to identify and pop out your details to say you are actually a registered voter in this particular polling station. And they say, should that also fail, they have also a plan 3 where they have the sealed manual voters register where the presiding officer has to inform the returning officer, and it's recorded, through a detailed form that we are in the process of identifying this voter, but the biometrics failed, the alphanumerical failed, so we would want to go to the manual register because That is where the details. And of course, this is also in prevention of the abuse, because you remember in 2017, there was a Supreme Court ruling that identified the misuse of the manual voters register.
Yes.
So they are trying to cap that. But if you identify it successfully, you will be given 6 ballot papers. As opposed to the other elections, because you remember also during the Supreme Court, there was also a finding that there were more voters who voted for the presidential candidates than the rest of the positions.
Yeah, they were not interested.
They just go to a polling and say, me, I want just for the president. At this time, they have said it's compulsory to be given 6 ballot papers for all the positions. Even if you are not interested to vote, you can leave it blank and you insert it to the ballot box for that particular position.
Yes.
So, and that is to account for the voters who voted in that particular polling station.
Yes.
Then the other thing is, as the voter goes to the polling booth, you know, where there is what's called the secrecy of the ballot.
Yes.
It must be secret. It's to you, save alone for the assistant. Siri yangu, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Lakini Nina, kuna zile alama ambazo zinatumika na mpigaji kura kuchagua yule kiongozi ambaye yeye anatarajia akuwe kiongozi yake kwa muda wa miaka 5.
Yes.
So you see, we have a tick and we have an X. All this, you know, in the school setup system, when you have a tick, it means that is right. When you have an X, it means that is wrong. But in voting, a tick...
Can you use either?
Yes, you can use either. But a disinformer, let's say, for instance, these politicians who feel like the voters no longer want them, they will go and disinform them that if you like me, give me a tick. But if you don't like me, also put me a wrong. You get that? And you know, it's just disinforming the public.
Yes.
You know, but in the real sense, this person knows is correct. And there are more other marks which Kenyans also need to be taught. The use of a dash, but within the box against that candidate, because there's the photo of the name of the candidate, the photo of the candidate, the party, you know, all those things.
Yeah.
And whether independent, there's also a symbol to that particular effect. Yes. There's also the use of the dot. There's the back slash, there's the forward slash. But should be within the borders of that particular box. So, you know, a disinformer will take advantage of ignorant Kenyans and not tell them this and deviate them, and more specifically, let's say from the section of, let's say, the stronghold of a particular opponent. So instead of giving them the correct information, you disinform them, you misdirect them. You give them false information. So when they turn up to vote, they are not making an informed choice. They are making a false choice out of the disinformation. Because again, voter education has to be very accurate. And that's just an example that I've given. Yeah. The other example is, you know, they say when you participate in an election, you have 6 ballots. And then you have the 6 ballot boxes.
Yes.
You know, the 6 ballots is the 6 ballot papers. Let me just use that language. And then we have the 6 ballot boxes.
Each box
has its own color, and it's well labeled.
Yes.
You know, disinformers will say, okay, after you mark the 6 ballot papers, you can dip in each of that. But you know, there's something which is called stray ballot papers, where if you let's say, for instance, the color for the women rep ballot paper and ballot box, it has also to match, you go and dip there. Otherwise, if you get for the women rep and you go and dip for the presidential ballot box,
that's a lost vote.
That will be a stray ballot paper.
But is it lost?
It is lost, because it will never be counted, because it was found in the wrong place. So the other thing is the difference between spoiled ballot paper and rejected ballot paper. A spoiled ballot paper, let's say, for instance, this voter has been given 6 ballot papers, and in the polling booth realizes that I was supposed to vote for Nina, but I have marked, let's say, Ken. But I feel, no, Nina should not lose. I would still want to vote Nina. So that voter has a right to go back to the presiding officer
And get another
and get another one, and then surrender this one, and this one will be a spoiled ballot paper. It doesn't find itself in the ballot box. So that voter has a right to go back and vote because of probably that mistake that happened in the first instance.
Let me
but a disinformer will say, once you've marked that and wherever you have no right to go back to the presiding officer. So you see, people try to misdirect people.
Allow me to ask a silly question.
Please ask here, Nina. And there's nothing silly in voter education.
Yes, as a typical Kenyan.
Yes.
I have my ballot paper right here, yes?
Yes.
And I want to vote Joshua, and there's Nina, and there's the other maybe 4 or 5 candidates.
Yes.
And then accidentally I vote Joshua, but I wanted to vote Nina.
Yes.
And I had given Joshua a tick. What if I change the sign I use? Like I cancel, and then the others I give a tick. You get what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah.
Like I change whatever it is.
Just the way you, let's say for instance, you are doing an exam, and you cross wherever. Now in ballot paper marking, that's not allowed. There are prescribed marks that are only allowed to be used by a voter. The marks that are being used in marking the ballot paper should be marks that should not trace the identity of the voter. That is also part of the protection of the secrecy of the ballot. So you cannot use initials. You cannot use a signature. You can also, let's say for instance, because we've seen also in some elections that we've observed, just because I hate Joshua, I draw, let's say, a pig, or let's say a cow. And then I tick Nina because that's the person. But this will be a rejected ballot paper. Now it also brings me to the other segment, because you remember the spoiled, where the voter returned and it was filed by the presiding officer. Now here, during the counting of the ballot papers at the close of the polling station, and it's converted into a counting station, and now if this is found in the ballot box, it will be what's called a rejected ballot paper. And it can be informed by a wrong mark in terms of marking the ballot paper, or unstamped ballot paper, because it must be stamped by the IBC clerk in the polling station.
Yes.
These informers will just say, get your 6, but voter educators will say, once you are given the ballot paper, make sure you check that it has an IBC stamp, because there's a rule that unstamped ballot paper is illegitimate. It's rejected if it found itself in the. Remember, this is not the mistake of the voter, because the voter does not have the stamp.
Yes.
It's the IBC clerk. So ensure that when you are giving the 6 ballot papers, always look at the back if it is stamped. If it is not stamped, please don't proceed to go and use that ballot paper to choose the leader that you want.
It will be
Ask
rejected.
the presiding. It will be rejected. It will be a rejected ballot paper.
Yes.
So as you asked your question, Nina, it is very important for Kenyans to also understand this, that you can have specified marking of the ballot paper, not as per your wish, but as per the regulations of the IBC on the acceptable standards. And of course, we come also to the other segment of the population that usually get disinformed if they are not well prepared or well, let's say, facilitated. These are the people, we call them assisted voters. These are people, probably they are living with disability, because of age, they are not able to write, or because of sickness, it could be informed.
Yes.
So these are people, we usually call them priority voters. They don't queue in the polling station. Once the queuing clerk, or let's say the IBC official, such as, let's say, the presiding officer or the deputy presiding officer sees them, they are always a priority. They are given a priority because these are people who need to take the shortest time and go back probably to their hospital beds, or let's say
pregnant people need to go home.
Yeah. So those are priority voters, or even children with or mothers with babies.
Yeah.
Queuing for long also is very disadvantageous to them. So the affirmative action of priority is given to them. Now, if not necessarily that a mother with a child needs to be assisted, but can only just be given priority, because this person could have gone to school and be able to make a decision.
Yes.
But now there's this elderly voter, you know, in 90s, or let's say, or a PWD on a wheelchair, and maybe the fingers, you know, are no longer there, and whatever, something like that. This category of voters are allowed to choose people who can assist them, and they go with them to the polling stations, and they take what is called the oath of secrecy, and they are only allowed to assist one person at that time. So you cannot be a professional voter assister in a polling station all the time. So one person is allowed to only bring persons. There's no misuse of the same. So the oath of secrecy.
Allow me to ask. There's someone who may be asking out there. What if I don't have someone that I'm coming with from home?
Yes, exactly.
Can I use a clerk?
That's
Can I
a very
use
good
a
question.
person I have found at the polling station to help me out?
Yes, the person who is supposed to arrange for that assistance is the presiding officer. But under the presence of the political party agents or the independent candidate agents. So they choose, like for instance, in a polling station randomly, the agents who can witness that assistance of that particular voter, so that there's no voter manipulation in the polling booth by the election official. So there must be witnesses, and those witnesses are the party agents who have already taken allegiance in terms of code of conduct, electoral code of conduct, oath of secrecy, on not really disclosing the affairs of the polling station, and just remain faithful and loyal to the operations of the polling station. Yeah, so there's that alternative. If you didn't pick somebody to assist, and of course, you know, disinformers will tell such kind of voters, if you go to the polling station, no one will assist you. You go to the polling station when you are sick, or with your baby is going to suffer. But you know, they have a democracy, they have civil and political rights. The Constitution guarantees them the right to participate in an election.
Yes.
So they should be motivated that when I go to the polling station, my welfare will be looked into, and no one will make me suffer. Let's say long queues and whatever. Just like those voters, because the polling stations close at around 5 p.m., those voters will still find themselves on the queue at around 5 p.m. You know, the law allows them to remain in the queue, and the polling station will be closed when the last voter who was on the queue before 5 p.m. Does the final cast.
So if I come after 5 p.m. and get into the queue, I am not going to vote?
No, you're not, because you are late. The polling station opens at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then closes at 5 p.m. in the evening. And it's converted into a counting station. You get that? Where now the ballots are going to be sorted and counted. And then the results are tallied. Tallied in the sense that for this particular candidate, and then now there's the declaration of those results in that polling station. So there's no other outside place where those results are going to be declared. But now what is going to happen there is results transmission. For the member of the county assembly and the member of parliament, or the member of the National Assembly, it's going to the constituency tallying center. For the senator, the women rep, and the governor is going to go to the county tallying center. Then for the presidential, it's going to go to the national tallying center, the Bomas of Kenya.
Now, we have people we can call empowered voters there. And we have some of these empowered voters are the ones you're saying are disinforming those who are not capable of getting first-hand information, So the individuals who are empowered, let's call them empowered voters there, how can we be able to get to those people who are getting misinformed and disinformed and giving them the right information?
Yeah, Nina, you know, this is a very complex subject. You know, disinformation is a deliberate fabrication of lies. Fact. You know, it can also be done by these empowered voters. Because either skill-wise or knowledge-wise, they are a bit more advanced. Misinformation can also be done by people who are not empowered. Just like because I do not have knowledge on the looks of a ballot paper, and probably the kind of the information that I've been equipped with is just misinformation, where I've been made to just believe, like for instance, if I'm marking a ballot paper, I am supposed to use my signature. You know, and people will say, if you use your signature at the time of the counting, probably you'll be given some amount, which is very wrong. I mean, and people believe that because during campaigns, there's use of money. And there's also, they could also suffer from the hangovers of, like for instance, even during voting, those who are counting the ballots, we'll also be seeing who voted for who and will be distributing money. I mean, misinformers and disinformers are very complicated people. That this is a subject that as Kenyans, we must understand it from a broader perspective and practice. And we must get concerned on equal terms, not to just say, these are people who are knowledgeable and these are people who are not knowledgeable. And it is a fact that this is about winning elections. And the formulas are not defined. You would think that it's only narrowed down to the manifestos, the agendas of the candidate.
Yes.
But there are those ones even who win out of these funny games that they do. I mean, by just disinforming Kenyans, you know, that kind of stuff.
And suspecting Kenyans.
Yes. You know. So, but I think we've reached a level now of even moving beyond the civic and voter education or even the political education and say, let's create awareness on disinformation and misinformation and equip Kenyans with knowledge on how they can detect fake news, on how they can stop the spread and sharing of fake news. And even advance the conversation and say, how do we entrench the values of online code of conduct? Like, for instance, before I use my gadget and share this information with Nina, how am I obligated to say that whatever I'm sharing is going to affect Nina negatively or this particular group of people negatively? Just like the leaflets that we saw being raised by the Minister for Interior. You can imagine the amount of resources that have been deployed, because I'm told also they have now sent tankers and the contingent of GSU officers to those particular zones. You can imagine the wasting of resources just in response to such kind of fake leaflets.
Yes, and
we could have used it even to build dispensaries, you know, I mean, for other more important things.
Yes.
But this is making our elections to be very expensive. And of course, it erodes the trust that we can have in our electoral process. And Nina, for your information, we are known as a country to be spending a lot of money in administration and management of elections.
Yes.
They are saying that they spend around 2,500 shillings per voter, which is one of the most expensive elections in the world. It's one of the most elections.
2,500
Yes,
per voter.
even we trust our money with technology, ATMs, M-Pesa, and all this, but we cannot trust our vote with these digital platforms.
Yes.
Because the technology that is being employed by IEBC is just to fasten the process, register the voter, identify the voter, but voting is manual. Counting of these results is manual. The results transmission, just in terms of preliminary, is done digitally. But in terms of verification and confirmation and the announcement is done manually. So you can imagine the kind of
the amount of work,
and even time and resources that we deploy in these exercises, that if we had ethics and values and say, if Nina really campaigned very well and has a manifesto, let's vote for her for these 5 years and she delivers on the assignment. I mean, in other countries, elections are a silent activity that you will not even know that there is an election in this particular country. Such as in Australia, which they have even made it to be compulsory, and you can vote from wherever you are in the world. Now here, we have to categorize our voters in a sample diaspora voting stations, those who are in prison, and we haven't told them that you can only vote for the president.
Yes.
Then the rest you can vote for the 6 positions. But you can imagine, IEBC officials have to travel all the way to Washington in the US. And those people who are in, and you can imagine the size of the US, those ones who are, let's say, in Texas, all the way to California, they have to travel all the way to Washington, near the Kenyan, where the Kenyan embassy is, to go and vote, because that is where the polling station is. Very expensive. I mean, so we've complicated this thing.
I'm sure amongst many other Kenyans, I'm learning this for the first time.
Oh, thank you.
I know this diaspora voting, but I did not know that that's how it works.
Yes.
I did not know that's how it works.
Yeah, just like the way, if Nina, if you are a village, let's say, for instance, I'm just giving an example, let's say in Abaswen, in Wajir, and that is where you registered as a voter, and you are here in Nairobi, And on the Tuesday of the 9th, instead of just being here at work to inform Kenyans and educate them about the election day, you have to travel all the way to Abasweni to go and vote, and then you come back here.
Wow. I'm curious about what's CRECO.
Yes.
What is the role of CRECO?
Yeah, CRECO stands for the Constitution and Reform Education Consortium. It's a consortium or a network of civil society organizations. Our primary responsibility since the inception is to do civic education.
Yes.
And voter education, to educate Kenyans, just the way we are doing this morning.
And for sure, personally, I've learned a lot.
Because that is the business we do.
Yes.
And it is educating Kenyans about the provisions of the Constitution. What does initially it was about the reform.
Yeah.
So we got the new Constitution, the Constitution in 2010. So the work of educating Kenyans on what does the Constitution say. And I'll give you a good example. Let's say, for instance, this Constitution of Kenya 2010 gave us two levels of government. We have the national government and we have the devolved functions. We have the devolved government, which are 47. So Kenyans, our members in those counties, educate Kenyans on those particular counties. Let's say, for instance, the budget making process, getting involved in public participation so that you can make a decision on how your resources are going to be utilized, and even make proposals on the allocation of those resources according to your priorities. Let's say, for instance, the different people in the society, women, youth, old men, business people, and let's say CBOs. Let's say, for instance, there's no dispensary in that particular area. And they need to be educated that, you don't need to wait for Nairobi to get that dispensary. You have the opportunity to make that decision when you participate in public participation and you say, we want to allocate 2 million to build a dispensary because our mothers and children or the sick travel like around 15 kilometers or 20 kilometers to get medical services, something like that. Then now, when it comes to elections such as this now, we are in partnership with other civil society organizations, including also faith-based organizations, where we do monitoring of elections, observation on the election day, and we have platforms such as the Elections Observation Group, where it was founded in 2010 and has been observing general elections and by-elections in this country. So, and we will give our verdict on how the elections were conducted. And we give a verdict on how IBC performed. And we also compare with other elections that have been conducted in this country. How political parties conducted themselves. They did their party primaries in April, and we also observed those particular. How even the media participated in informing Kenyans about the 2022 general elections. And remember, in 2007, the media also was a victim, and we saw the media also being taken to ICC. That kind of, I'm just giving that as an example. So the responsible journalism also comes into play. And also other players such as voters, candidates, and even the application of the law, the rule of the law, including Kenyans who will go to the judiciary, either High Court or Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, to seek justice. So we monitor that process and inform and document. And documentation is very important because we are able to make reference on the best practices of 2013, 2017 to inform the 2022. And even as we engage for 2022, we are also looking forward for 2027. Like, for instance, now, our prayer is that we use the experience of the 3 elections and 1 referenda, which happened in 2010.
Yes.
For instance, to have IBC be fully independent. Because IBC, in terms of its preparation in the management and administration of elections, they have cried to say they do not have resources. And they only depend on treasury, public coffers, to be allocated a budget according to their plans. But what stops us as a country from having what's called the IBC fund, which is already provided in the Elections Act, just like the Judiciary Fund, which it was awarded to them 3 weeks ago. So that makes them also to plan in advance, so that procurement issues of printing ballot papers and all that, is something that they are not in a rush towards the last minute. And you saw even the saga now, let's say the Venezuelans and all that kind of stuff, just because things are being done in the last minute and everything becomes very suspicious. So if things were planned from advance, so we interrogate those. And of course, our main focus is to speak for Wanjiku, the citizen. That is the demand side. This person who is not in a position to come to KUTV and explain some of these technical issues, we simplify them for our citizens to consume, so that they are able also to make decisions without necessarily relying to a superior person, let's say in government, or let's say this official who is in a particular commission. So at least we are engaged from a point of knowledge. Yes, and where possible, and we feel like Kenyans' rights are being deprived, we also go to court through what's called public interest litigation. And we've done that a couple of times. And you must have seen in the BBI.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, that was also a good example.
Yes.
Yes, because this was a burden for this country.
A few minutes ago you said that you are looking into, you saw 2012, 2017, and now 2022, and now we've not gotten to 2022 yet, but we're really looking at the 2027. There's a rumor that was going around. Allow me to also give you rumors.
Yes, please.
And I'll not reveal my source, but it was being said that at some point the IEBC was looking into using an electric method of voting, whereby you just have to put your fingerprints for you to choose your candidate. Do you think are we there yet? Are we?
No, the law provides currently for manual voting, not digital voting. But the law.
Do you think we are?
I think we are ripe to transition into digital voting.
Yes, like
and
Australia.
I think that will inform our reform advocacy, our electoral reform advocacy in the next electoral cycle.
Yes.
Post next week, where we are also going to convince Kenyans to say that we are spending a lot of resources in elections. Like for instance, Nina, what stops us as a country from adopting when you register as an adult? When you've attained the age of 18 years, when you acquire your national identity card, becoming automatically a voter.
Yeah, you can do it at the same time.
Yes, because we have departments of government, the Civil Registration Bureau, which is in charge of issuing of these identity cards. But of course, we are always suspicious of government because of our history, where they've been abuse of civil service, and we can't trust them. We need to have an independent body. But what stops them working hand in hand with IEBC, so that when newly registered Kenyans to acquire their ID card, the names
automatically translates to a voter.
They are submitted to IEBC for the update of the register.
Yeah.
Where probably the application form to acquire a national identity card, that person even indicates the preferred polling station to vote.
Yes.
So that we just get, and it's being done in South Africa.
And it will save time and money.
Yes, it's being done in South Africa.
Yeah.
And that is what they have done. And I think in South Africa, they try even to register these people at the age of 16 so that by the time they are in 18, when they become eligible voters, at least their data would have been captured by the Electoral Commission. And there's nothing that stops us from adopting that. The other thing is even as we adopted technology, we've seen technology being adopted very successfully in the Kenya National Examination Council, primary, secondary, and other examinations. We've seen digital backing, the use of the M-Pesa, the use of, M-Shwari, mobile banking, and wherever. It's being done successfully. I think it is high time we also become bold as a country and say, let's embrace technology, even in our voting processes, so that at least we reduce on the expenditure.
And I believe it will be easier.
It will be very easy.
Yes.
And I think that's a conversation. And we will also borrow best practices that have happened in other countries. I know Australia, for instance.
Yeah, Australia does it, and it works
they do it very well. And for them, elections is just an ordinary exercise. If you are not voted in, it's not a big deal. But unfortunately, Nina, in our country, elections is a matter of life and death.
It is.
Because of the amount of expenditure that candidates invest or political parties invest in an electoral campaign. And some of these things even don't make a lot of sense because, let's say, for instance, an MCA using to a tune of around, let's say, 30 million. But when you look at the monthly pay and the allowance, when you combine all even for the 5 years, does not even reach that amount.
No.
But now, that will just be a motivator for this person to be a thief. A corrupt person.
Stealing public funds.
Yes, so I mean,
they must have the
they must have a return of investment.
Yes.
And as to when they can break even, I'm quite sure these guys cannot even work for the first 2 years. They will only just remember to go back to
I need my money back.
Yes, and that's why most of these MCs are never voted back. If you've done some statistics, even per wards and wherever, something like that. Because, people get offended because they don't serve the people.
Yeah. Wow. Mr. Joshua, we have come to the end of this conversation.
Thank you very much.
I would really appreciate if you spoke to that voter out there.
Yes.
Speak to that voter, encourage them to vote and why they should vote, and recommendations on how to go about it.
Yeah.
And how to verify information as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nina. Elections is about livelihood.
Yes.
You're making a decision for how your life is going to be in the next 5 years. Because you're making a decision to put somebody in public office to preside over your taxes.
Yes.
Because we all pay taxes.
We do.
And if we all pay taxes, those taxes should be able to provide you with services.
Yes.
And these services are returned back to citizens through government programs at the county level and at the national level. So voting is about livelihood. If you refrain from voting, it's like you've distanced from making your life better. Whether you are rich, whether you are poor, or whether you have a source of livelihood, because the policies that are going to be put in place by people who are elected in office is going to also affect your business. It's going to affect the way your children go to school.
Yes.
It's going to affect how you get, public utilities such as roads, such as water, such as medical care, and even employment, opportunities.
Yes.
Because if you have a government that is driven by people who are strategic thinkers, let's say they occupy the National Assembly and the Senate and the county assemblies, or let's say the presidency, or let's say the gubernatorial offices. If we have the right people to hold these positions, we will enjoy our being Kenyans and even be patriotic of our country. And you must have seen also the cost of living has really gone high.
Really gone high.
But it's informed by the decisions that these public office holders make. Because if there are people who can be triggered to just approve, let's say, borrowing and the misuse of these resources, or scramble for public tenders just to enrich themselves, and all sorts of vices, in the management of public affairs.
Yes.
The voter has the first opportunity of public participation through an election. But public participation does not stop at the election day. There is subsequent public participation opportunities at the county level and at the national level, provided by spaces that is being managed by these people that we put in political office. So if we are involved in this process by determining the kind of the people who think on our affairs as citizens, is when we can enjoy the services that the government is giving us. But if we have wrong people occupying these public offices, is when we will suffer, and we will not have any voice to agitate for our rights as Kenyans, whether it's about roads, it's about water, it's about our children going to school, or even it is about also international relations, how we relate with our neighbors, or even how we protect our country.
Yes.
So, Kenyans, this is an opportune moment. It is the third time under this Constitution of Kenya 2010, and it's also a transitional election where we are going to get a new president, and we have a president who is going to retire, and we have many governors. In fact, more than 22 are going to retire, and we will be having new governors coming on board. And these are people who hold huge resources and power at the lower level to ensure that services reaches the people. So staying away from voting is also like staying away
from making a right decision.
from bettering your life as a Kenyan.
Yeah.
And what is more important as we participate even in the elections, peace is paramount.
Yes.
Peace is paramount.
Yes.
We have to coexist and integrate ourselves regardless of our tribes, regardless of our status in society, to ensure that Kenya remain peaceful, because we don't want to see another 2007, 2008.
Yes. True.
We want to have a cohesive country that we enjoy the kind of the decisions that we make in the ballot, and we say these are our leaders that
and
we've put in, and we've made this choice as our country. And remember, Article 1 of the Constitution says sovereign power belongs to the people, and no one is above the law, or no one is above the Constitution.
Yes.
So the decision that we are going to make on Tuesday next week, it will be also a determinant on how our Constitution is going to be implemented, so that we have the principles of separation of powers, where we have the parliament, we have the judiciary, and we have the executive arm of government at the national level. And at the county level, we have the executive arm, and then we have the legislative arm through the county assemblies. So as Kenyans, as we participate in these elections, peace is paramount. We must safeguard it and protect it jealously, and ensure that we hold the people who are perpetrating violence to account.
Yes. Thank you.
You're most welcome, Nina.
Thank you. And make sure you vote.
And you also make sure you vote,
yes,
Nina.
I will do
I'm going to vote.
I'm also going to vote, because I know I'll be here the day after. So I will make sure to show that I voted. I will.
Yes, and your vote is your secret.
Definitely. To everyone else, your vote is your secret. Make sure to filter the kind of information you're getting. Thank you so much, Mr. Changwoni. If anyone wants to reach out to you for personal...
No problem. Our social media channels for CRECO is open, and citizens normally engage us.
Yes.
We are going to have even WhatsApp lines, and we can always share that in public, where we want Kenyans to report cases of misinformation and disinformation. And we are able to assist in verification of that particular information and inform Kenyans on how they can debunk, and even do some explainers to educate Kenyans on those rumors and fake news that will be going on around. And we'll be doing this in partnership with other civil society organizations and IEBC and other institutions such as the National Police Service, to just ensure that we remain in a peaceful country. Yep.
So dear Kenyan, if you have any information you need to verify, reach out to CRECO. They will verify for you your information. Please, peace is paramount. Cast your vote. You are responsible for the leader that you choose. Let's make this country a better place. We will be coming back with Doris Mwangi here to tell us her story and share with us her journey on education for all. I will see you after a short break, and I'm also awaiting for your feedback on all our social media platforms at KUTV Kenya on Facebook, at KUTV_Kenya on Twitter, and at KUTV Kenya on Instagram. I will see you after this short break.